Thank you all so much for coming. This is an unbelievably good turnout, and there is a lot of people in this room that I've never met before, and this is literally what this event's all about. So I did a version of this event in 2019, and the original idea of Been There, Done That was meant to be a terrible pun, meant to be, not too serious, but an opportunity for people who have never competed or never been part of coffee competition, whether it's volunteering, judging, anything like that. They could come and kind of get to know what it's all about. Before I competed for the first time, I went to a few talks and tried to understand it, then competed for the first time and it was all a bit of a mess. And then, with these kind of events, sort of speaking for everyone here, there's a lot of people who've got a lot of experience here. I love seeing new names when the competition's announced and it shows all the people competing. I'm like, who are all these people? I don't want to go, that's going to be the top 5 every year. I don't want to know who the top 5 is. I want it to be, it could be anyone in this room. The next UK Barista Champion should be in this room because you're here learning about competition. All right? Unagi and all that. So I'm going to quickly say thank you to everyone here who's volunteered to give up their time. If everyone wants to give a little round of applause for all these lovely people. You're going to get to learn. You're going to get to kind of learn a little bit about everyone. But to be honest, this little event was cooked up by me in sunny Manchester. But to get it to this scale, with the likes of these people and microphones and the internet and all that stuff, we wouldn't have been able to do it without the help of the SCA. So I'm going to introduce Cam, and she's going to talk a little bit about the wonders of the SCA and the lovely sponsors that have also helped make tonight very good.
Thank you. Before I say anything else, I've been in this industry for well over a decade, and there's so many faces here I don't know, and that is the reason we're doing this event. So I'm SCA UK Community Coordinator, and we wanted to do something. We want to do an event for you. This is a place for you to answer or ask the questions, and you see the people who are able to answer some of your questions. We all got green stickers, as you've seen, and we'll meet and we'll talk again afterwards. No, I'm really, really excited that we're able to put this on. SCA UK, we are organisers of coffee events and organise all the coffee competitions, and we have a Brewers Cup and we have baristas coming up early next year, and I would like to see some of your faces joining. But we're here to support you any way we can. We're here to answer any questions, if it's any concerns or any obstacles for you to compete. We're also here to answer any questions, ask them online, approach us today. We will help find a solution for you or introduce you to the people who will be able to answer the questions. So this is what we're here for. However, putting on competitions like this takes a lot of people's volunteer time. But then also, we couldn't really do this without incredible sponsors. So we have some amazing sponsors for each competition. And I'm very, very grateful that in the name of community, that even if we are in a different machine manufacturer's showroom, just had to put it in there. Yeah, sure. But actually, I'm just so happy that we are all doing this. This is not about a brand alliance. This is not about who we work for, who pays our wages. This is all about you guys. This is about a beautiful, amazing community that we're in. And yeah, anyway, give up to sponsors.
So if you'd all just like to quickly introduce yourself. A lot of the sponsors are up on, you see them on the signs, you see them on they get announced a lot, but I like to talk to people. So knowing that there's a face to some of the sponsors and someone that you can come and talk to, they're real people and they're really nice people. So Steve, yeah, you're a good guy.
Is it on? Yeah,
it's on.
Right, good. Hi, my name is Steve. I'm working for Cimbali. For those who don't know, Cimbali is coffee machine manufacturer since 1912, so we've been around a little bit. We are the sponsor for the UK Barista Championship.
Yep.
And with the M200, which is over there. All right, talking about a little bit of the M200 and the specs. The machine will be on a fixed technical specification on the machine with a 9-bar pressure, with no pre-infusion, no pre-wet. It will only be a basic. Can I say basic?
You can say basic.
A pure extraction, coffee extraction, yeah, espresso extraction. There is two things that you will be able to put your
Adjust.
Thank you so much. The temperature of the boiler. So we have a different coffee boiler on each group. You will have to be able to use one temperature and the height of the drip tray. That will be the two things you can just adjust.
If you're thinking of competing in UKBC, make a point of going to see how that feels. I think everyone on here will have sort of done that at some point, and it's really helpful. It might make you think about what scale you use, what scale you don't use, the cup size, placement, all that kind of stuff. So whilst this machine's here and lovely Steve's here to actually talk to you about it, it's really valuable that it's here.
And I just wanted to say, we are just in the corner. Feel free to ask any one of us. So we have Lucy and Nathan and myself working for Chimbali. Feel free to ask.
Thanks,
are here
Steve.
for that.
Legend.
Thank you, Steve. I'm sorry I haven't got a smooth French accent to speak to you with, but my name is Liam. I'm from Malconnig today. We do also, at Brewer Group, represent 3 other grinder brands and 7 non-grinder brands, ranging from espresso machines to filter brewers, smart steamers, automated tampers, and a few more. Brewer Group have been involved in the UKBCs for about 20 years now, between sitting on the committee of the SCA, getting the UKBC championships up to where it is today, and through sponsorship early on with Le Spaziali, and since about 2006-07, bringing Malconnig to the UK. That coincided with the first commercial grind on demand. So we take it for granted these days that grind on demand is there, but anyone who started off, I suppose, dialing in on a doser grinder, you know the pain that solved. Over the last couple of years, we've alleviated another pain by bringing grind by weight to market, real-time grind by weight, and hopefully it won't be too long before that comes onto the stage at the UKBCs. However, for this year, we've just got the E80, which is over there next to the lovely Chimbali machine. It'll be on a timed dose, so you've got to adjust your time as you would with any other on-demand grinder. The weight function will not be on it for the UKBCs. There is, as we're locking down to just the E80 this year, you don't have the option that you've had in the past of bringing your own EK43. You can, of course, bring your own E80, and there is a cast steel upgrade that you can get if you want to replicate those EK43 results. So you can come and talk to me about that if you want. Other than that, yeah, just come at us with the questions. Happy to answer anything. And great to see so many people here today.
Knowledge bombs, knowledge bombs. We're all just making noises because we didn't know that the E80 was solely E80 and no EK43, so you heard it here first. This is breaking news. Go, Howard, I'm not going to keep you.
Shocking breaking news.
Shocking.
I love how we care so much about this stuff in this. That actually is a piece of important information in this room.
There was a gasp and an audible reaction.
Yes, absolutely. Right.
It is a barista competition, so you should be able to, replicate it on another grinder if you're a really good barista.
What you said. So,
we've been told.
If you are a really good barista and you need some green coffee, I don't work for Olam Specialty. I work for Kavoya Specialty Coffee. We changed name 3 weeks ago. Kavoya Specialty is the new name for Olam Specialty Coffee. We've been a sponsor for the last 3 years of the competitions in the UK, and also we sponsor the Swiss competitions as well. And we get why competition is important. We are talking to here the next generation of coffee people, coffee experts, coffee career people. That's why we do it. We back the competitions, and they're hugely important for that. You are going to hear a lot about that from the panel in a short period of time. Competitions were very important to me 10 and 12 years ago when I was doing competitions or judging in competitions, so I endorse these as a useful thing to do at any stage of your coffee career. Okay? Practically, if you need coffee for this competition, in conjunction with a sponsor who's not represented here, but I could happily speak on behalf of, Grumpy Mule Coffee, they have sourced coffees from Kavoya Coffee that are absolutely competition winnable coffees. If you do not have a coffee sponsor, if you do not have a coffee yet that you've decided, you can talk to them. You can talk to Aaron and Graziano, who will be here at other events, via Camilla and via the other contacts on there as well. So please do speak to the guys at Grumpy Mule, effectively on our behalf for Kavoya Coffee, and we are more than delighted to bring you coffees that will do very, very well in these competitions, and you are able to use those as part of that. So that is our support, and that is what we're delighted to do, and I look forward to a good evening.
Thank you to all the sponsors. So many microphones, so few people. So this next section is going to be in two parts. We're going to just kind of go through everybody who's here. For some people in the room, you may not know some of the team that's behind the table. Just kind of get a bit of an insight into what they have done, whether it's compete, judge, train, coach, to what level they may have progressed. My favourite question of what's the worst thing that's ever happened is going to come back up, because it's my favourite question. So we're going to kind of not fire through, but keep this bit a little bit shorter, just because there is a lot of you here. I'd like you to all be thinking about things that you would really like to if you had this microphone, which is terrifying. What you would ask any of us. It can be one person in particular, once you kind of hear maybe what they've done or what particular area that you're interested in. And once we've all had a bit of a chat, and maybe everyone wants another beer. I don't know why I made so much eye contact with you about that. I'm so sorry. Then we're going to really, really encourage some Q&As. So please be thinking of anything spicy as you want. I'm here for the spice. So I'll very quickly introduce myself, which is weird, but my name's Ollie. I look after wholesale for Blossom Coffee Roasters up in Manchester. As I said earlier, I wanted to kind of come up with a way of talking about my experience. Weirdly, I've never done that good at comp. Having me host this feels very probably very underwhelming for you all. The first time I competed was a long time ago, 5 or 6 years ago, and I was 4 seconds off being disqualified for going that far over time. So top tip, don't go over time. And then I've competed twice since then and made finals both those times, which was good fun. And I really, really like sharing knowledge. I like sharing different approaches to how you get from A to B. There is some very, very, very skilled coffee professionals in this room. I guarantee no one trains the same, no one approaches competition the same, no one has the same goal. My goal has always been a spark with something, so it could be the coffee, it could be an idea, it could be both. And then also, I don't believe I wouldn't be stood here, if I hadn't have had that email from an operations director of the company I work for saying, what competition is everybody doing? And I was like, barista? I know how to do that? I was so bad. But it started, I'm pretty sure it's the first time I met, you were competing that year? Yeah, that was when you did everything. I think so. Pretty sure that's how we met. Pretty sure, in fact, I'm pretty sure that's how I met everyone, is somehow through the competition stage. And, sounds very wholesome, but people go from colleagues to friends to people that I really confide in and I'm quite close with now, but I met through making frothy milk drinks on stage with a headphone on. It's a funny old concept. So I'm going to stop wittering on. Tiana, who are you? Where are you from? Blind date rules, everybody. We're Scilla Black rules. Long live Scilla.
Okay. Hi, my name is Diana. Know some of you, don't know others, so definitely say hi later. So currently I'm the COO of St. Coffee Roasters, St. Espresso, and the founder of Sense at London. Based in London at the moment, for the foreseeable future. I've been a competitor in everything, pretty much. And
I don't know anyone who's competed in everything.
So
I
in
believe
2017, I decided to compete in everything that was thrown at me, and I think it ended up being 10 competitions in 9 months. So it was
which
pretty
is
intense.
crazy.
So madness. No, it was great though, really.
Can we just point out how well you did in most of those things?
Yeah, most of them were finals or top 3. But that was not from years of prep. That was from years before of not making it that far. So that, yeah. And then I've been a coach as well, and I do a lot of judging now as well. So, yeah. Any questions about any of it and any competition? I'm the current UK roasting champion. I've mentioned that this time, sorry, I forgot last time. So also, if anyone's wanting to know more about roasting, I know that's one that we won't do a sensory experience on because that'd be awkward. But if you have questions about that, obviously also chat with me about that. Yeah.
When we have gone through this lovely little chat and some chats with you guys, Diana's going to be hosting a sensory experiment, tasting.
It's like what I'm going to do is I'm going to demystify the barista and the brewer's cup sheets a little bit for you. We'll have some sheets available. The barista ones for you to write on. The brewer's cup I've already actually put everything on. And then I have a few little things that Matt and I will have tastes with you on and chat through. So you can actually look at the things on those sheets and try to apply it to something. And so that people at home, if they want to replicate this, could as well. Yeah?
For anyone who isn't who's aware, Matt, who's over there, is a wonderfully experienced judge and has been involved in the SCA for a long time? Yeah. Yes. I didn't, we kept it vague. But Matt's also going to be part of the panel on Bristol, if any of you are more that way. That's on Monday. But yeah, there's... if any of you are thinking of doing BCs or brewers, I can't stress how valuable looking at the score sheet is. It's my first piece of advice to anybody, is print off the score sheets and print off the rules. If you know what the judges are expecting from you, you have got 99% better chance of doing the thing that you're supposed to do. And if you have the score sheet, the rules, you know what you are and aren't allowed to do. But it's very rare that you can actually engage with a judge because there's certain rules about coaching and such. But at this point, competition season hasn't started and it's all very vague, so please make the use of this time. Claire, I believe you've done relatively all right pretty recently.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Thanks, mate. That's an inside joke that's going to be a very outside joke really soon because I'm probably going to bring it up.
No, I won't.
I'm going to leave that for now, just lingering in the air. Hi, everybody. My name is Claire. Job-wise, I'm the current head of quality assembly coffee. We're based down in Brixton, end of the Victoria line. I've done a little bit of judging, but most of my experience is in barista comp, obviously. A few other competitions that aren't related to this event. I think I first competed in 2016 and have done it every year since, apart from that 1 year where I retired and decided to judge for a little bit and then went back to it. UK Barista Champion currently and third in the world currently. So any questions about... Oh, not again! No. Yes. So any questions about UK Nationals, come to me because I've done that 1,000 times. And translating it from Nationals to Worlds, that was an experience. So yeah, any questions about that? I'm your gal.
Excellent. Thanks, Claire.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rosa, currently working for the Gentleman Baristas as the head of coffee and production. In terms of competitions, my first competition was in 2016, barista. And then I did Brewers Cup, and then I did cup tasters. And then I represented my country in cup tasters in the world, placing 13th in the world. Is that?
Yeah.
This was back in 2018, and since then I've been focusing on coaching. The recent one was here, person sitting next to me, standing next to me. So if anyone have got any questions about coaching or any of those competitions, please let me know. I did do some century judging as well 1 year, so yeah.
Do you have the sticker for that?
I got a few stickers here.
Not the sticker. Not the sticker. Oh, God. Big man.
Hi, my name is Anson. I work at Ozone Coffee Roasters / Has-Been. I've competed in UK BCs 4 times. And yeah, I have a slightly different approach to competing, I guess, which is why actually Camilla asked me here today, which is I've never competed in a competition to win it, ever. It's never been my goal. My goal about competing in competitions was always just purely to learn and to push myself and to push my boundaries. I think it's really easy when you work in a cafe day to day or whatever your job might be day to day that you just basically get stuck with the same old job, doing the same old thing every single day. And competitions really gave me a reason to learn, to drive, and to improve and to get better. We can set ourselves these goals in our head where we can say like, oh, I'd really like to learn this one day. Right? Competitions give you that deadline. Basically, like you have to learn it by that day because on that day, you're going to stand in front of some people, right? And you've got to basically talk about that thing that you said you were going to talk about. So you better learn it. That's essentially it. And so I've done well, which I'm very proud of. I just wanted to basically always just communicate what I learned. And that hopefully along that journey, other people around me and always including the judges that were on that stage in front of me would learn through that as well. So yeah, I also did one little random thing to talk a little about sustainability of competitions. When I did the UK BCs this year, I only used 1 kilo of coffee through the whole entire competition process.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, so that was including from the creation of my recipes to my tasting notes, to the creation of my signature drink, and the coffee that I then took on stage. So when I competed in the finals, I only had enough coffee to make the 6 shots for the judges.
Do not recommend. I think one point on that as well, I hope this comes out well. Like, we want to celebrate people that have done exceptionally well, right? But standing on stage and competing, it doesn't matter if you're first or last. Like, you will learn whether... I don't want to sound like facetious. You're not going to just learn how to pull a good shot. You're not going to learn maybe the effective altitude on a coffee or a very specific processing. You're going to learn... Oh, God, it sounds so gross. You're going to learn a lot about yourself, like how you learn. Like, I know there are people in the room, I've just seen him. One of the most hardworking baristas I've ever seen preparing for comp is Vag. Like, I don't know anyone who trains like Vag. 100%. And like, we kind of had a positive joke about how you make us feel bad about how hard you train. I'm like, I don't train as hard as Vag. I'm never going to win. But it wouldn't be for me. I couldn't train every day, 7 days a week. I would get burnt out. I would not enjoy it. I have to go in, and Claire and I talked about this, like scheduling time and showing up for that time is so important. It's like going to the gym. If you go, I'm going to go to the gym today, nah, I'm tired, I'm not going to go to the gym, then you don't get ripped because you're sad because you didn't go to the gym. You aren't probably going to make those strides at getting a bit better at whatever competition you're training for if you don't show up. Having a coach that's going to show up for you and go, no, you come, you do that thing. Having a friend that comes and goes like, I'll come and taste your drinks. Sierra sent me some of your prep work for brewers. We chatted. I was like, I only tasted your coffee today from Worlds, but you know, it wasn't. I couldn't be in London and taste that coffee, but I wanted to go. Hey, I'm available, even if it's only 3 sentences of feedback from a video on WhatsApp. So you can be there, or you can be that person that just takes your friend out for dinner and go like, you need to not train tonight. We need to go and watch a terrible film, or we need to like just do something and be present for someone. So yeah, my weird point being, whatever level of competition or judging or whatever it is, there is value to it, I think. And I think that's a good segue for you, maybe?
My name is Ian. I own, but don't really do any of the work in formative coffee. That's down to three wonderful women over here, plus Jake, who's not here. So most of the time I'm at home with my son. And that was the case, I suppose, this year whenever I competed. I think for all of us, and I feel a little bit like of an underperformer on this table.
Absolutely not.
But
You are not.
I think for all of us, like, there's a drive for improvement, and there's a drive to, somewhat echoing what you're saying, Ollie, like, understand what it is about ourselves that we can take to the next level. You know? And I look around the room, and I'm really excited because I see a lot of people who have competed before, but a lot of people who I recognize but haven't really seen compete. And I think that's really promising for our industry. Whenever I started, you know, it was at Taylor Street Baristas, and I remember going to the roastery there and tasting maybe 16 to 20 samples of different mustard solutions for a signature drink for a UK Barista Championship that Deanna was trying out. It's a very good drink. Yeah, I would recommend that people look into that for a signature drink, as mustard can actually enhance sweetness, it turns out. Well, there you go. I think that we, you know, competition is a wonderful thing. It can be kind of encouraging and depressing in equal parts. I think every year, like if you stick at it, you know, whatever your actual success rate, you become better as a coffee professional. You meet people and you understand a little bit more about what it is that makes you a coffee professional, and not just someone who's a barista.
I'm going to echo that, and it's something Matt actually said on a podcast that's all about coffee competitions, hosted by my lovely friend Will. You should give it a listen. A few people on here have been on that. When you enter a competition, potentially, I think SCA was saying 70 places might be up for grabs this year. That's 69 people that are going to be miserable because one person wins, right? That's the look of it. You are more likely to not win than to win. Your odds are stacked against you. So if you go in with only enjoyment from winning, there is a high chance you'll be disappointed. If you go in going, I'm going to do, it sounds, again, God, it's like a Hallmark moment. If you do your best, if you do a really good job and you do way better than you ever thought, like I never thought I would make finals. Like I remember watching, you know, some of the people that are on the stage, like compete and watching them on live streams and being like, oh my God, how cool is that? Like they're so good, and I would never think of doing that with that drink, or how did they come up with that? And then I'm there on stage talking about putting coffee in freezers and stuff, and then people are messaging me going, dude, how did you do that? And I'm like, do you really want to ask me that? I'll send you to the people who I learned that from. So like, yeah, being just in the race, so to speak, if you were training to run a 100-meter sprint, you'll get a bit faster from training. So 100% do that. Sierra?
Hi. Lucky last.
Yeah.
Hi, guys. I'm Sierra. I am the research assistant at the Zurich University of Applied Sciences. That's a very recent thing. Some of you may know me from Alpro when I was based here in the UK before. And I am the current UK Brewers Cup champion. Not for long, so, as we roll into the new season. Thank you. And if we were talking, you know, stickers being Pokemons, like I would be probably the least experienced Pokemon trainer here.
That's the best reference so far.
Thank you.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I am actually a first-time competitor technically, although I did compete in cup tasters a long time ago. Me and Matt share the story. That's how we met, actually, and Matt's one of my best friends now. Matt DQ'd me because I didn't read the rules for cup tasters. So read the freaking rules.
Read the rules is a takeaway.
Yeah, so but then this year's Brewers Cup was the first competition I think I'd ever really decided that I was going to dedicate myself to. I had the time, I had the support from my company, and was just like, you know, screw it, why not? So really, I don't have that much experience stacked up from years and years, and in some ways, I think potentially that might be valuable to some of you, because I've heard that the second year, so like standing on the precipice of like do I want to do this again and put myself through this can be the hardest. So if you want to share in my journey of misery, please feel free to reach out to me and have a chat with me. But yeah, and there's obviously other things as well. Some of you who follow, the competition circuit already are aware of this huge new thing called extract chilling, which is kind of like the big elephant in the room. The university that I work for does do certain experiments with regards to that, so feel free to ask me anecdotally about that experience, because we did work on that in my Brewers Cup presentations this year, and I can help to debunk some myths as well, because there's a lot of myths going around. So that and the rest of my competition journey as a first-year competitor, please feel free to reach out.
I would 100% recommend watching Sierra's UK and Worlds routine. I said this to you, so I'm going to say it to everyone. I think when I was watching your Worlds routines, I was like, I don't think I've seen a better Brewers Cup routine.
You're going to make me emotional. Thank
legit,
you.
like, we're friends, but like, this?
Yeah, literally, people have come up to me and just done that now, and I'm
if you
like,
watch the routine, like, I remember watching him, it's like, oh my God,
y'all.
I want to drink this. Yeah, unreal. Oh, well, UK soundtrack was banging too. Soundtrack advice also available.
The SCA obviously have to, because of the music copyright, they're not allowed to play the music, but the music was a big part of my energy on stage. Rosa and Claire were there to kind of witness that, and they were waving Union Jacks for their lives. It was great. And also another part that I think would be really cool to talk about with Claire, Rosa, and myself is kind of like how we kind of entered this year's journey together, especially when I was still based in the UK, and it was incredibly meaningful to have the two of us kind of make it. It was a really special moment.
And also because it was us, and also there was also Lisa Laura.
Yes,
Lisa Laura. I need to mention that. To also, as 4 women getting ready for the competition was really cool.
Yeah. Sorry, just to clarify as well, Lisa Laura was the first Women's Brewers Cup champion in 2018, and she represented the UK. So if you ever want to reach out to her, she works for Gales. She's super lovely. Yeah. And she has also done incredible work within Gales to raise, the competition profile. So please speak to her. She has a wealth of experience as well. So
100%.
So we're going to include one key thing that we did up in Manchester last week, just because it was really fun. This is kind of a free-for-all, so anyone can grab a mic and just jump in on this one. Best and worst idea you've had about competing. So like something that you cooked up and thought, oh, that is an absolutely killer idea. I'm really happy I've done that. And then something you did and hope will never leave the training room. I'll go first. Tried to make a signature drink with an Irish coffee in mind, and I started thinking about whiskey, and I was like, it's like smoky flavors. So I made a Lapsang Souchong syrup, and it was the worst thing. One of the worst things I've ever tasted. It was like licking an ashtray, and I couldn't taste anything for about an hour. All I could taste is like this horrible smoky thing, and that was worse than trying to use the aquafaba, which is what, if anyone doesn't know what aquafaba is, it's the chickpea juice, and if you are vegan and you want an egg white replacement, you can use that and shake it. People using cocktails, you need to know what you're doing with that. Otherwise, it's like hummus coffee. So gross. I think probably my best idea is an idea that I had for somebody else, which was, if anyone watched Will's routine from this year in the semi-finals and finals, he had a little device, which we've nicknamed the splitter, which he poured his signature drink through, and it's split into 4 cups. And it's if you've ever competed, it's the worst thing, measuring out each one, and you get judged on how good that is. There was an audible gasp in the room when he did it, and it will stay with me forever in my coffee journey. And then to see Claire use that and a few other people, I think someone in the Swiss Championship used one, so Team Splitter.
So we actually borrowed it from
I think
Will.
It's the same one.
We were like, Will,
apparently
can we please, can you send it to us and we will send it back?
And it's now with someone else who's
so it's back with Will, but he can pass it on to someone
No, he
else.
has. He's passed it on. It's now Paul Ross is now training someone with it for their nationals.
I feel like everyone needs to sign it that has used it, and then it will just,
FYI, it was like £8 on Etsy. I don't know why it's like the OG. Maybe there's like some magic dust on it. So that's probably my best and worst. Anyone can chime into any, depending on how graphic you want to go. Not too graphic, maybe.
Really? You've got to do it. I mean, you already mimed.
You
my
can
worst.
say it. You
Oh.
don't have to say it.
No, I'm going to say it because it's on video. My best was doing it. Let's get that over with. The worst. So went into Worlds first round, nervous, obviously. Just did my thing. Rosa's like, I hate you so much. Went to make my first shots. Was like chat. First almost slipped on the floor. Wear good shoes on the Worlds floor. Then put my NCD in. Spin. My brain was like, that's it. You're good. Went over to the machine. Boop. Niagara Falls. Came from
Who needs to tamp? No need to tamp.
Your first shots at Worlds, guys. The camera does a slow pan zoom in. It's great. And my brain just went, that's it. This is over. My life is done. I may as well just walk off now. But I kept going somehow. Those are my SIG drink shots. Thank Jesus. Because that somehow sort of saved me.
Got a little bit of a savior window in there.
So when I came off stage, Rosa looked, you know when she's not like angry, she's disappointed?
Oh, no.
That.
Oh, no.
And I was kind of convinced that was it. I was going to go back to the UK, and that was like 70th out of 70. And I came 14th, which got me through to the semi-finals.
Woof.
So you genuinely never know on stage. If something's gone horrifically wrong,
You just got to keep going.
keep going because you never know. Never, ever
One
know.
of my espressos was like on the edge, on the rim, on finals, last time I made finals. And I was just like, just like tried to style it out. Saw my tech judge lean over and be like, you're an idiot, you know, like. But you have to poker face all of that. I've seen people like notably make it clear that things have not gone their way. And if you've watched competitors, you can kind of feel it. And then the judges will feel it. You want the judges to be on your side. A lot of the judges, we were talking about this earlier, a lot of the judges are like super happy people. They're looking at you. Matt has a few memes about his judging face. But generally speaking, out of the 4, you might get 60% of them looking at you like going, come on, do a good job. One might be like, do a good job. Don't look at them as much. But they're willing you along. They want you to do well. If you will look like things are going badly, they'll probably go that 4 is a 3.5, I think. I'm sure it should be subjective, but. Will has a great face that was captured for the podcast as well, where he's like. Oh yeah, Will. Yeah, so yeah, Will served 5 coffees, like an absolute lunatic. Would not recommend. He sent me his first draft of that to be like work together on his script, and I was like, do you really want to do 5? Question from the audience. For anyone who didn't get that on the microphone for the live, it's if you can't see what the mistakes, you're less likely to. Yeah, so wear like a cape. Yeah, I'm going to wear a cape and like a cloak. And then feel like, can't see. Oh my God, that would be so good.
My first time competing in the UK is my very, very, very first time competing. I actually forgot one of the ingredients of my signature drinks. So I basically had, my coaches hate me for it, but I'm like real casual with things. So I had 2 identical jars. One of them had the ingredient I needed, and the other one just had some sugar in it. And so when I was on stage, I just picked the jar up, and as soon as I picked it up, I knew it just had sugar in it. And the judges were actually looking down at the score sheet because they were making notes because I'd just given them a course. And I just continued to talk, and I walked off stage, and I grabbed the ingredient and walked back on stage.
Unbelievable.
While I was talking. And then apparently the judges didn't know I'd left. It wasn't until... yeah.
That's going to take some big
Yeah, it wasn't until the head judge had said in the debrief afterwards that I left the stage that any of the judges realised I'd left the stage. So that was good, yeah. That was my worst moment, by the way, in case you're
I
wondering.
thought that was your best. I would have that as my best all day long.
I think I've got two favorite things. One is like ingredients based, because I really, really like making super crazy ingredients. The one from not this year, but I'll talk about the one from another year, was I made a strawberry and tomato consomme, which took about like 10 days to actually make, to get it down to the point where it was basically clear, but had all the flavor of strawberry and tomato. So that was a really, really fun ingredient to make. And not as complicated as you think, just lots of freezing and defrosting and freezing and defrosting and freezing and defrosting. And then my one from this year's competitions was a leek oil, which was really fun, which actually tasted, it basically brought a really like herbaceous flavor into the drink, which is what I was looking for. I wanted the idea of bringing like fresh basil or fresh mint into a drink. I like the freshness that herbs bring to anything, dishes, cocktails, but my goal was that I was going to have no fresh ingredients. So like I didn't buy any ingredients. What it was the leek heads from the restaurant, and I basically just blended them up with frozen or oil that was at negative 20 degrees, and then blended them, and then essentially the oil takes on all the flavor of the leek, and then you can strain it and you get a leek oil.
So, like, these things are really good if anyone's curious, like, how you get from I need a herbaceous thing to leek head oil is sick. But, like, if you've never competed before, you may not have that train of thought. So whilst these people are here afterwards, sorry, everyone at home, come and, obviously we've got some Q&A, but if there's time after that, definitely get in on that.
Speaking of herbs.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I think that my worst moment was, like, using French tarragon in the signature drink, because if you know how French tarragon tastes like, it's very overpowering. So yeah, it tastes like French tarragon, and I was trying to convince them that it didn't, but then they did say, they were like, yeah, it tastes like tarragon. I was like, yeah. And then obviously my best moment is to, like, I speak from, not from the competition, like as a competitor, but for me, the moment when she did so well. Oh. Yeah. But also like just doing the competition is just the best thing. And being part of like with Sierra, like when we were getting ready for the competition and all of that is a journey. So I think that's like the best part of it, I would say.
I can, are you, but, yeah, okay, no, I'm just going to actually say best in work, because I'm going to change, I said one last time, so I'll give you guys a different one, because they kind of fit in the same, and there's something that you were mentioning earlier, so it's great. So in, I forget what year that was, some year of madness. Was it 2017 maybe, actually? One of the years. I think it was 2017, it was the year of the madness, the madness. So I made a signature drink. The worst part of it was the development of it, right? Because as we were talking about, so what it was is I was taking a Kenyan coffee and I wanted to create a drink. I won't explain how it gets through that, we can talk about that after, but I wanted to make a drink that had tasted like cheesecake, because it was like a relevancy to the continuation of the courses. And I'd been doing some research, so what we'd done is we made like this really cool like whey, where you split the whey with raspberry, so the aroma would marry up with the Kenyan coffee. And then that whey, we were trying to find the right ratio of mustard, because of the sensation and the chemical compounds of mustard, and like honey to mix into this drink so that it would taste like a cheesecake, right? So the best thing is when it actually succeeded, which was pretty awesome. And the worst part was the lead up to it, as what 16 different combinations of types of mustard, English mustard, Dijon mustard, different types of honey. That was pretty intense to be. So thank you for being there.
I think, there's a bit of a pattern here, and it's signature drinks. Signature drinks can be kind of a stumbling point. The first time I competed, I didn't really want to practice my signature drink. I had an idea for it, and it turned out it tasted really good. Yeah. But I used honey, and I needed a way to measure honey, and I would recommend not putting a kind of low viscosity liquid in a syringe. So when I went to Bristol, it took me about 2 minutes to get the honey out of the syringe, and it went about, I think, 50 seconds over time. So that was fun. But I think that was quite a nice, actually, introduction to competition, because I did quite well, but, you know, because of the 50-point deduction, didn't have to do any more. I think it was probably actually Deanna's idea, but I'm going to steal the credit for it. If you are considering competing in Brewers Cup, apart from Sierra's routine, which is probably the best I've ever seen, one of my favorite is Deanna's, I think in 2019. I think we spent a lot of time thinking about how we could be within the rules while doing something different. And Deanna had spent a lot of time thinking about wine as well. So we used these kind of decanters with an oxidator in them to cool the coffee, to kind of open it up. And it was a really nice sensory experience, fantastic to watch for the audience, but also like it actually added something to the coffee. I'm not sure the judges agreed, but it was fantastic to watch. So that was one of my favorite, I think, comp moments. Yeah.
Rad. Anyone else?
Oh God. Okay. No, so
Oh, God.
I don't even know if I'm ready to talk about this yet because it's so recent. But I guess the worst moment for me was actually from this year's Worlds. So I already talked about this on a podcast with Nicole Battefeld. She's the barista, as well as Will's podcast, Hello Judges. But basically what had happened the day of my compulsory was that the thing that I hadn't prepared for in all of my 3 months of training, so basically I had been paid by my work to train full time. So there was this kind of mental expectation that I was gonna do well and so on and so forth. But then I didn't train for the one thing that actually ended up happening on stage on the day, which was that my AeroPress paper slipped. So the grounds went through into the final brews for my judges. Yeah, I know, the collective.
Can I just say, everyone just did the noise. We all felt that
that was
for you.
cathartic. The only person making that noise that day was my coach, Matt, because he realized something was wrong from like way far ahead in the bleachers, and he's like, hang on, she's doing the spare AeroPress, what's going on? And that was the thing, so then it was the spare. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna panic, I've got 7 minutes, I can make the spare AeroPress. In my panic, I didn't place the carafe of the grounds away and ended up serving it anyway. So things can happen, prepare yourself. But that wasn't even the worst. I think it was coming off stage and knowing that I needed to do my open service, which you guys thankfully complimented, but that was after a full-on mental breakdown backstage. So I had to regroup and do that routine. So if you watch the routine now, just know that I had a full-on panic attack like 2 hours before that.
I would never have guessed that. Like I didn't actually know that beginning story like at all, and yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so anything can happen, and I think at that point, like right after I came off stage and realized I'd blown it, and with Brewers, it's quite brutal. You go from like 32 to 6. There's no semis, so they cut you straight down to the finals. So at that point, I knew that anything less than perfect was not going to make me get into the finals. And I was, there were just crazy thoughts running through my head where I was like, maybe I just don't do the routine. I will just not show up. And literally everyone was like, nope, you just don't do that. You don't do that. And that was, you know, down to my inexperience as a competitor and how to manage my emotions. And people were just like, eat the food, drink the water, sit in a corner, collect yourself, you're going on stage. And there was so much like positive talk that had to go into it. I was like, shit, it's a really beautiful coffee. I still want to showcase it, like even if it's not going to get me there. When am I ever going to have a chance to do that again? And then at that point, it's knowing that that's your one and only time to showcase this coffee because you're not going to make it into the finals. So that was both my best and my worst moment because that routine was probably the best I've ever done out of the 2 times I've done it. But yeah, like it was a routine that I will continue to be proud of whether or not I continue competing into the future. So yeah, that's the...
It's a benchmark for every UK brewers. Like I think a lot of people look at, he's not here today, but Josh Tarlow is one of those people. When you watch Josh compete, he is the most effortless competitor.
It's just a smooth criminal.
So irritating, he's so good. And I remember him being backstage just going, has anyone got a scale I could borrow? And you're like,
He
Josh.
is literally a cowboy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like he could. I want to see Josh dressed as a cowboy so bad. Now you've said that. But he would always know the coffee so well. I remember him doing brewers, and he didn't like touch anything for 3 or 4 minutes. He was just telling this beautiful story of being in the garden, and I was like, oh my god, I want to drink this coffee. It's the same vibe as you. I was like, I want to drink this, and what you can learn from watching people who've done super well, or people who you just resonate with what they did. I think it was last year or the year before. I'm terrible with names. Someone here might know. Matt North might know. He's the king of people. German barista champion from not this year, last year. She like filled in very last minute.
Island, yeah.
One of the best routines I've seen on. It was like all about mental health, and it was really powerful, and it was also really well done. And I think that's, at least in my knowledge, and I'm one of the sad people who watches a lot of these things, I'd never seen that talked about on the national stage, let alone the world stage. And it was like, it's quite a vulnerable thing, even like standing here talking to you guys. It's quite, you put yourself out there to go, I'm going to brew this coffee really well, but also talk about something really important. So, yeah, there's, I don't know where the segue was from that, but welcome to my world. I think this might be a nice time to get some questions from people. So someone is going to be dead nice and ask the first question so that no one else feels weird about when we do this weird. Someone's put their hand up over here, Cam. And that way, I would have picked you. No offense. No offense. We made eye contact. It was, let's go.
So about preparation, what is actually a part of coaching? Because I have no idea.
In terms of...
what is the coach's work, how a coach can help you succeed? Because obviously, a coach can help you
Good
succeed.
question. So I guess maybe if Claire came to you and said, hey, I'd love to coach me at UKBC this year, like where do you start with that? Are you going to say, okay, have you got ideas? You told me about some of the coaching that you were doing, like disrupting Claire's practice and like moving things while she was doing her routine, so that it was like, where's that? I think my favorite was this stopping the timer thing. So
I started my time, was doing my intro, I made eye contact with her, and she just leaned over slowly, stopped my timer, grabbed a cloth and threw it on the floor, and just didn't break eye contact.
So, I guess, Rusa is a lot more better at this to answer this, but for me, for coaching, sometimes it's a sounding board. You have great ideas and terrible ideas, and sort of sharing them with someone. But something you touched on in Manchester is like, you need someone who understands what the rules are, what the competition is actually asking. So like helping with expectation.
Yeah, I think that it is like, it depends what part of your competition journey you are in. Like, for example, when I coached Claire this year, I already was part of like her routine the year before, so we already knew each other quite well. And then in 2019, I'm like, next year we're gonna win. Like, I was just like, let's do this again. But I think that like one of the things that you need to look into, like just like even just to get started, is just like, first of all, read the rules. Like it's just like such a simple thing. It's actually like, I printed them out. It comes out like that thick. I don't know how many pages there is, maybe like 50 or something. Like literally just read the rules, watch some YouTube videos of previous competitors, get some ideas that like, because if you look at all of the different videos and stuff, you might, like, I'm just like saying this as to like, to get even started, is to, if you like something, just then go like, okay, la la la, I like these ones, da da da, but then put them into like something that you're like, okay, this is maybe what I want to say, like, and it has to come from here. Like, and I think that like, if we think about Claire's routine this year, like she said straight away, like, I want to talk about fermentation. I like wine a lot, and like, I'm very into the fermentation, like the different practices of wine. And then Claire equally is interested in whiskey. So like we were straight away like, okay, let's look into this. And like, and then how does this marry with coffee and so and so and so forth. And like the subject of like coming straight down from your heart and then talking about that and like something, or like just something that you're very interested in. And it can be something like even like mental health or something, because in the rules, it doesn't say what the subject needs to be. You just have to make sure that once you read the rules, then you look into the score sheet, and then you're like, okay, am I gonna get points from this? If I say this, is this gonna score me well? And as a coach, that's what I'm like basically saying. Is this gonna score you points? Where are the points in this? And it helps to have someone else like also knowing them, the rules and all the like where to score points, because then like if you say something and so on and so forth, and then like it's just kind of just like la, la, la. Like it's kind of like there's no point just wasting time saying la, la, la. Like you might as well use that time saying something valid. I'm not sure if I like answered your question at all, but yeah, there you go.
Some coaching advice, I know Sierra, you've got a point, but some coaching advice I've given to people is, and this is really helpful to take part in Deanna's section after we finished up here, print the rules out, print the score sheets out, didn't say that properly, write down everything that you see on there that needs to be said. So I'm really not talking to you guys, I'm going to tell you guys the rest of this. So, for example, you need to write down, if you're talking about BCs, your coffee information. So write down the coffee information, then you might need to write down the flavor cores or the sweetness, whatever it might be. Write all that down, then get another piece of paper and write down all that information that you've just put on the score sheet. Then go, okay, how do I make this into a nice thing? Because I've got the coffee. If you, assuming you have the coffee first, I've got all the details I have to say. If you then just practice saying that, and that takes you 15 minutes, you've written too many things down. If you can say all that in 6 minutes, then you go, okay, where is the personality? Where's the thing that I want to say within here? Because it's really frustrating if you watch someone compete and they're unbelievably good, but they're missing score sheet left, right, and center. Or they say something, but it's not quite what the judges need to write down. Similarly, like structuring how and when you say things. So I made a joke about that grinder going, but like when people are going, okay, you're gonna taste this, you're gonna taste this, you're gonna taste this, and you're like, I can't write that fast. So actually doing the routine, and if you guys were going through it, I couldn't hear you say that. I didn't know that wasn't clear enough. So sometimes coaching is steering the ship a little bit, and something you mentioned about like having someone on your back behind the scenes going, you did good, like that was great, or that was not your best, and being able to hear that from someone. So you have to pick a coach that you are happy to receive negative feedback from as well as positive feedback. Sierra?
Yes. No, I mean, yeah. I really, as someone who was kind of like an onlooker and, you know, part of Claire and Rosa's journey, especially at the nationals level, like one thing that really struck me was how well Rosa accounted for the factors that no one thought of. Like I remember you said something about the water at La Cimbali and roasting for the water at La Cimbali. And I was just like, I would never have thought of that. Like, and I think as a coach or finding a coach is to have someone else to have that second opinion, preferably someone who's done the competition a few times before, who's able to say, yo, this is something you have to consider. I heard anecdotally somewhere that like 1 year in Boston, the competitors hadn't accounted for the spotlights that were gonna melt the ice in their drinks. Like things like that you just don't think about. And a coach ideally should be someone who has, you know, traversed that arena before.
I have the weirdest segue, and maybe 5 people will find this interesting. There's a documentary on Netflix about cheerleading called Cheer. I had watched it with my wife. It's very good. It's kind of weird, a bit dark in places. But there is parts of it when they are at their national finals and their coach, who's done it several times, walks them from where their hotel is to the venue and literally goes, okay, so this is what's going to happen here. It's going to be really noisy. You're going to be here for 20 minutes. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. All I could think of was, again, advice I've given to other people, practice loading your trolley. Practice the 20 minutes that you've got to set your station up, or the hour that you have to do there. Practice putting the stuff in your suitcase before you go, if you're up in the north like us and you have to travel everywhere for competitions. National finals in Manchester. Never going to happen. All these things you can practice for, and we've all kind of touched on a few mistakes that have come up. It's probably just something you didn't practice for. And someone out there has done the thing before and gone, you really don't want that to happen to you, so please practice that.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of issues here. There's how do we approach getting people to help us for competition generally, and how do we pick a coach? I have to say, like, you two are like a really good example. Like, it strikes me that Rosa is someone who is equally committed to the whole process as Claire.
100%.
Right? I think that can be really helpful. You know, if you're working 40 or 45 hours a week on bar already, which I'm not, but or working in general, like, it's really hard to show up if you don't already have someone you want to spend time with who is going to be constructive, who is going to come with new ideas, who is going to be equally committed. And whenever you get to the point of actually performing, you want someone who is equally invested in what you're doing, who wants you to succeed. You know, I was speaking to Rosa earlier about someone she was thinking about coaching this year. She said, I want you to win. If we're going to do this, I want you to win. And that's the attitude I think we need to be approaching competition in the UK in general with, right? Obviously, we want to foster a really good coffee community, but we go into it with actual serious preparation and invest in one another. So there's that. But also we need to find, you know, for me personally, I don't find it difficult finding ideas. I quite like picking coffee, but to be honest, I don't really have a very long attention span. So like attention to detail is not my thing. Like dialing in on the day, I'm just like, oh, that tastes good, that'll do, okay, let's go. So like, it's useful to find someone who brings skills that you don't necessarily have. Or, you know, if you're not relaxed on the day and can't focus on those things, that will bring those things in. And then there's the aspect which a few of us have talked about already, about actually the broader kind of preparation. And I think that bringing as many people in to taste your coffee and see your routine and critique it, that's really valuable. And I think that that's something that over the years, as I've kind of competed again and again, like it's less of a nuisance and more of an essential to bring as many people who drink coffee day by day in to taste that, as many people who have judged or competed before to give their opinions and feedback. Right.
Doing your routine to faces that aren't the same three faces you
Yeah.
always do your routine to, the first time you do that, it's like, oh, this is weird. Oh, like, I've got to do this, like, properly. It almost feels like a laugh when you're doing it with your colleagues regularly, but doing it with a fresh face is different. We had a question over here, but unless you have a question, Cam.
I just really want to add to that.
Oh, God.
If that's all right.
Go, Cam.
Ian, do you want to tell us a little bit about the preparation you did for
Yeah, fair
the
shout.
heats?
Fair shout. This is important, I guess, if you are thinking of competing. This is a good...
Yeah.
It can
Thank
happen.
you.
You're welcome. I couldn't finish this conversation without bringing it up. Stage is yours, my friend.
I decided to compete this year in Barista Championship the day before, at about 12. I did one run through, I think, were you there at the time, Ruby? I can't remember. Ruby was there. Yeah, and I said, can I do a presentation? And I can't remember what the time limit is, 8 or 9 minutes. Can I say something and not make a fool of myself tomorrow? So I did one run through then, and then I said, what's nice on the shelf? Okay, let's take that. And then went to Chimberley the next day, had a bit of a walk around an industrial estate for half an hour. I figured out what I was going to say. And then dialed in the coffee for the first time, tasted it, and described it. But I think, you know, this is indicative of the fact that, you know, I have competed for a number of years and helped people compete. The competition in itself is not that complicated. You get up on stage, you make some coffee, and you describe the coffee. And the better you can make the coffee and better you can describe the coffee, the better you'll do. Underlying that is an understanding of the rules. You can gain that through experience, through coaching, or through reading the rules.
Read the rules, everyone. Read the rules.
Barista, I think brewers is a little bit harder to do well in on your first try. But I think barista, like especially with the heats format, it's really, really accessible. Choose a reasonably nice coffee, like dial it in well. Have somebody with you who you trust to actually assess that coffee. Say very little apart from what it tastes like and give a theme, and I think you'll do okay.
To echo that, a friend of mine who works in coffee literally came a few days after your heat, was just like, oh, I've heard this coffee is like one of the best milk drinks anyone's ever had. And then to hear
I
that...
don't really share that opinion, but okay.
But literally that came, London to... I was in Kendal at the time. That's quite a long way away. And a week later, the coffee that you used was in our roastery. And someone was like, oh, you got to taste this. It was delicious, but...
I think, not to plug anyone else's business, but I think Gentleman Baristas will have something similar very soon.
Oof. Cam, someone over here had a question. Can you remember it? It feels like that long ago. I would have forgiven you if you'd have forgotten.
So, on the off chance that you have more than an afternoon to pick a coffee,
Such a good start.
It's tied in really well. How do you know when you have the one? Because in some cases, there's always going to be a better coffee to use, a better coffee to try. But when do you kind of stop and say, this is the one that I want to use, and I'm not going to look anymore?
That's a very good question because we're all excited to answer it. One of the years I competed, company-wide, there was 20 plus coffees that were sent in plain black bags with labels on. Every single person picked the same coffee, and they were all over the country. So there's some degree of you taste it and you're like, oh yeah, this is the one. For me, for heats for 2023, I had an idea that I was sort of tinkering with and was like, I'm never going to do comp again, that's madness. Then I tasted the coffee, which is in that hopper over there if anyone wants to taste it, and was like, I really want to compete, this coffee's delicious. So sometimes it comes to you very easily, and you could keep going, buying the most expensive coffee, but if you taste something in that coffee that you feel you are going to be confident about, I believe that this is X, Y, or Z, it doesn't, I think you'd waste your time looking for other stuff, personally.
Cool. 2 kind of points to this. First one is, you are going to taste this coffee a lot. Over and over and over again, in various forms. You're going to try weird things. It's not going to be nice. So keep in mind, it's like picking a partner, right? You're going to be around them a lot. Yeah? So think about it like that. So pick something that you will commit to in that sense. Yeah? For months of training, tasting it over and over again. My gosh, normally. So that's the first thing. Let's say then you kind of go, okay, cool. What are you competing in? Okay, very important. How are you brewing it? And just score it. Brew it and score it. Brew it and score. If you're choosing between 2, brew it and score it. Look at your multiplier. Look at the things on the score sheet. Analyze that score sheet. Understand what it's saying to you. Choose on the basis of what you're going to be happy to brew over and over and over again, that you have a kind of connection to, that you also know is going to be something that works for what you're brewing. Yeah?
One thing that I learned from Rosa the first time you coached me, actually, which I'd never thought about in previous competitions, but obviously taste is subjective, we all know that, but there's a level of objectivity in this competition that has to be there. But when you're picking a coffee, it's very easy to go, this coffee's incredibly complex, it tastes like this and this and this and this and so on and so on and so on. And that can, for barista anyway, make it quite difficult in your flavor descriptor section to score well consistently again and again. So when we looked for my world's coffee, we were like, we need something that's incredibly delicious, but also has some very clear tasting notes that scream at me. And it doesn't necessarily need to be the most expensive coffee, but we need to taste it and go, that tastes like cherries, 100% cherries. And that will make your life a lot easier, because then when you go into heats, when you go into semis, finals, and everyone's tasting it, it should be very easy, or not very easy, easier for you to hit those flavor descriptor ticks if the flavor is loud and obvious. So that's a factor that we really looked for when we were picking coffee to roast.
Do you want to go first? I can just like quickly just say that you want to choose a coffee that, like, if you, for example, we all have drank hundreds of coffees. So if you have got a coffee in mind that, for example, for you was something that you were like, I really love that coffee. Like, maybe look into that farm, maybe look into that producer, and maybe that could be like, and then maybe like, oh, is anyone serving this coffee, you know? Or like, maybe I could purchase this as a green coffee from somewhere, and then look into there as well, that like the coffee has got like a personal meaning for you. But then at the same time, I just want to say, just pick the coffee, like just choose and go, because like people keep on faffing around with their coffees, literally, and then they're like, oh, this is a better blah 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 blah. Just forget it. Just pick the coffee, stick to it, start working your routine, let's go. Like, because this is what people often do. Like, they're just like faffing around with the coffees and you're just wasting time. And this is what I literally said like 15 minutes earlier to Ian. So, yeah.
I have a fun coffee picking story, actually, where in that first year I competed with a coffee from Burundi, which was a really, really nice coffee from a new estate at the time. And then I went to World of Coffee in Dublin, and there was a cupping that was running at that World of Coffee, and it was an auction. I was there to buy some coffee, actually, that's why I was there. And I went through and did the cupping, and blindly I actually picked the exact same coffee all over again, without even knowing that it was there. So I then competed with that coffee again. And that for me was purely like, I look at it as, because I just want to compete with a coffee I like. It's so much easier to talk about something that you're genuinely interested in than it is to feel like you need to force it out. I've never had to learn information about a farm. I've never had to learn tasting notes. I've never had to learn roast profiles. I've never had to learn anything like that, because all that information's already there. It's already just there in my head. And so that's the easy part to me. Just stand there and talk about the coffee. That's simple. That's what we all do every day, right? That's what we do in coffee shops, what we do with customers. We talk about coffee. So as long as you know it, as long as you're passionate about it, as long as you like it, then that's just simple. The hard part is, I don't know, for me, making it consistent. But anyway.
I think broadly and kind of like on a philosophical level, I 100% agree with these guys. Like, you feel it. You know when it's the coffee. The tricky thing is, for brewers, that, at least in my experience, and I don't know for anyone else's, for those of you who have done brewers before, it is a little bit different, because you get to experiment with a lot of other factors. You get to experiment with the water, with the roast profile, which you get to do in barista as well, the brewer, and they all bring out different attributes. And that was kind of a huge rabbit hole that I fell into. So that's something to consider. So for me, it was, I think we had 5 or 6 coffees that were just constantly in that pool on the table that I took, months to whittle down. And even at the very last minute, like, I was still like, maybe this coffee, maybe that coffee. And then the other thing as well is to consider your reasons for choosing it. I've heard of competitors who, perhaps select a coffee because it has a great story, or it serves a really good social purpose, and so on and so forth. But is it going to be rewarded by the score sheet? And just because it's got a beautiful story doesn't mean it will taste as good as you want it to. So that's something to consider as well. And unfortunately, I think that's probably where the competition format can progress, ultimately to reward other origins who perhaps deserve a bit more limelight. But right now, there are a select few origins, unfortunately, that produce the quality that the competition rewards. So that's something to think about. Another thing to say is that you can blend. Blending's a thing now. So, you can open up your options for flavor diversity within a brew, just to think about things. And those are all the things you can play in with brewers, and to some extent with barista as well.
Everything they've all said is 100% true, but do remember who you are choosing the coffee for, and that's the people on the other side of the table. Mm-hmm. As a judge, you are essentially choosing a coffee for us to taste and us to score. You can be caught in a lot of confirmation bias if you think a coffee you really like will score well. Your target audience is the same as picking coffee for a shop. Remember your target audience, and that will get you a long way.
Any other questions of all the 2 that we've had? There's a hand. Oh no, this is, yeah. We're never going home, we're never leaving.
So, it's just a question from an outside perspective. Like, hospitality or like being a barista for a lot of people is like a transition job. Like they may enter it as a student, they might be doing it because they want to do something else, but in that period of time, they become really, really good. So for me personally, I like to motivate a lot of people to actually compete. Like, I don't want to do it, I don't have time. But for most of them, they're like, I don't want to do it. It's not for me, and they're really, really good with coffee. But then what's the motivation for them? Like, is there money in it? Like, can they grow in it?
Nope.
Right, like, because it's
Nope.
not just the money, right? I get, like, you can develop yourself personally, but they don't want to stay in coffee forever because that's their thought process.
I don't know, maybe it's a controversial answer. If someone doesn't want to compete, they should not compete because it's so much work. If they want to be involved in the community event, you could volunteer, you could get into judging. I think technical judging for a lead barista or head of coffee in a chain of cafes would be unbelievably helpful. When I do coffee training for Blossom and our wholesale partners, I regularly use, not in a very direct way, but I use the score sheet that I would work to for technical. So like inserting the portafilter and brewing within a certain parameter of time. I don't tell them it's from the score sheet. Well, some people I do because they love it. But I think you have to, it's a good thing. I think it's a wonderful motivator that you're going, I will support you mentally or physically or whatever it is to compete. That's how I started. I had someone that goes, I will support you. And I do what you do. I'm like, yes, come on, compete, do it. But for the few people that I've coached, I've been like, this is all you. I'm here to help you as much as you want me to help you. I can't sit in, I have a job and other stuff. I can't be there every time, but you have to show up to do that. You have to sort of do that. But in terms of what they want out of it, if they want to progress, if the end goal is not senior barista, cafe manager, like I was a cafe manager before I went into the wholesale side of coffee, understanding what your route is. So if you wanted to get into roasting, maybe you go volunteer at the roasting competitions. Maybe you do cup tasters because your sensory will improve. So there is a sort of potential for job sort of improvement. But my massive takeaway was don't do it. Don't make someone do it if they don't want to do it. Or not make, that's the one. If someone's like, I don't know, be like, I'm here for you if you want to. But if you don't, then maybe there's something else you could do that would help. Or they could help somebody else, perhaps.
I would also tag on to that, like, I echo what you say. But if they want to do it and they're not sure if maybe they're going to be in coffee forever, so what's the use out of it? For me personally, I found I gained and improved in a lot of skills out with just learning about coffee. Being able to speak about coffee in front of a room full of people this full made me a much better barista trainer than I was beforehand. That can apply to any job role, you know, speaking in a room in front of people in an organized way, transferring an idea from yourself to other people in a clear and concise way is an incredibly useful tool. Organizational skills, timekeeping, all these sorts of skills are transferable inside the coffee industry or outside of them. So whether they just want to do it once and then never go through coffee ever again, there's a lot that you can take from competition that's not just, I know what a geisha is now. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more skills that you'll build within there that you can take to other jobs.
Yeah, totally agree. And we have mostly focused on BCs, so barista and brewers. But that's the season for now. Cup tasters, roasting, SIGs, like coffee and good spirits, like I think is one of the most under the radar competitions still. And it's, making coffee and like if you drink coffee and booze, that's quite fun. You might have a really good time developing a drink that you can then serve in your bar, which then can add revenue to the business that you work for, which then helps you get better salary. So you could be like, hey, I am a cafe manager, but I'm earning good money because the business I work in is profitable. And more people come through the door because I'm a dead good barista, or this person in here is really consistent because the general standards behind the bar are very good because we're all shooting for this kind of certain level, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, like it's going to vary from people to people, like you say. Like it's not like one, like everybody's going to have their own different journeys, and people are in coffee for different reasons. Like one person competing in a cafe will boost the whole entire quality of the cafe, 100%. Like they're going in every day, they're going to be practicing their latte art for when they're pouring in front of judges. They're going to be practicing the consistency of their shots when they're behind the bar. Whatever they're doing, without anybody even wanting to or not, they're coming on that journey because they're going to be talking about it, they're going to be practicing those skills, they're going to be there, they're going to be asking questions to the staff, all that sort of stuff. So anybody within that cafe is going to learn and grow with them as well. So it's super beneficial in that sense. And then to echo what Claire was saying, there's other skills, you know, like public speaking is obviously a massive one. It's probably my single biggest asked question is like, how do I feel comfortable doing things in front of people, which I've done a lot of, not just competitions, but a lot of stuff like that, and even random other stuff like things in front of like cameras and stuff like that as well. Like you just have the ability to like flick this switch and you just go into this mode where you're like, oh, I'm just talking in front of a judge, but the judge isn't a judge, the judge is a camera. Yeah. You know, like, and it's just like, you have that switch because you've done it, right? Because it's there, and if you've never done it, then that switch doesn't exist. There is some things in the industry, like, you know, it's maybe not massive, you don't make loads and loads of money, but there are definitely things, like the first time I ever competed in a coffee competition when I was 18, at the time, it was very, very fortuitous. This is definitely not a given, but I won that competition, and I did win like a trip to Origin at the time, and that's what kickstarted my whole entire coffee career. Was because I was like, holy crap, I just did like a stupid coffee competition and I got to go to like India for 12 days. I was like, this is nuts. And then I started doing more and more in coffee, and then from there, that gets seen, right? You come to events like this, like when I came to London, I knew no one. I was just a guy from New Zealand who turned up by himself in London, right? I come to coffee competitions, I meet people through meeting people, I meet other people, I meet people in companies, and then when you turn up to apply for jobs and things like that, you're not just all of a sudden no one, but they might know you, they might know someone you know, they might introduce you to someone, they've seen you at an event or something like that. So there is definitely benefits behind it to progress in a career. It's not a given. It's not like if you win this competition, you get that job, but through the whole competition circuit, there's definitely benefits if, you know, that is something like if coffee is a career you're looking into.
I've got some great tote bags for getting in the finals.
Can I also just say, I actually work for a company where we had 2 people 1 year competing in the coffee and good spirits, and neither of them are in coffee anymore. But what they got from that experience of doing the competition was just like, one of the feedback was just like, oh my God, I loved it. Like, oh, it's such an amazing experience. And this was the main comment was just like, I want to do this again. Like, they didn't, like, I mean, it's a coffee and good spirits. They forgot to put the alcohol into the drink. But
oh, no.
It didn't matter because it was just that, like, I loved that experience. I loved the vibes at the backstage. I loved the vibes at the, like, the whole community that it brought together. They made some contacts, like you're saying. So sometimes, like, yes, it's not about, like, we do, like, I mean, I talk about winning and stuff, like, you know, like, but then at the same time, whether there is money involved or, like, you know, a prize or something, like, sometimes, like, for some people, like, specifically if coffee is, like, necessarily not going to be their career, or they don't maybe see that as their career, it's still something like, competing is quite fun, you know? Like, at least, like, I love it. Like, I'm like, yeah. So, like, it's also, like, it's a great experience. It's almost like, you know, like, doing something, starting a new hobby, or, like, you know, doing a bungee jump, or something like this. So, like, I don't wanna compare it to, you know, like, erase that from the live feed, please. but what I'm saying that it is an experience as well. So yeah, maybe that could be, like, you know, a cool thing to do.
I suppose one point as well would be, if you are a cafe manager or a cafe owner and you want your staff to do that, pay them to take time off the bar. If you expect them to train on a Saturday on their day off, you could incentivize them that way. I know a lot of people that don't always feel that they can do it because it's a spare time thing. So you could incentivize, not necessarily, hey, I'm going to pay you for every hour of the day, otherwise I could be a millionaire. But there's maybe an incentive in that way, because the return on your business, I think, would kind of cancel out.
Yeah, no, that was the point I was going to say, which is, I think the point that we're driving at is that people here are interested, but maybe don't know where to start. And I think the place to start is just to ask, like just develop a thick skin and just go and ask people, have a good idea of what you want to get out of this experience, how much time you can dedicate to it, how much energy you've got. Find someone that you think would be compatible with you as a coach, ask them, you know, and really lay out, hey, this is what I would like from you. Could you help me with this? Ask for coffee. Maybe ask your employers if you can use the space after you've closed for the day, because most cafes are amenable to that. It's little things like that. Like for brewers, at least, I borrowed so many things that I had to send back. I didn't have a lot of money to buy anything. I mean, and Claire and Rosa will say as well that they did a fundraiser, which was the first time anyone had ever done a fundraiser.
Great shout.
Yeah, to go to World. And there are ways for this community to rally around what you want to do. So please just ask us and we'll get you sorted.
Perfect segue with the asking part of what you just said. We're going to wrap up this bit because some people might need to do toilet things or water things or beer things. But we're all here. We're going to take a relatively short break, and then Deanna's going to crush some sensory with you all. But if you want to go and chat with, I see Steve, you're like lit up. Look at this. Beautiful man. If you want to go chat with any of the sponsors, if you want to grab any of us, if anyone's got a green sticker on, like, go grab them in a safe and consensual way. Talk to them about what they've done. But thank you all for being here, and stick around. One last thing. Because you're here, if you didn't watch on the live stream, the UKBC heats for 2023 are going to be fully released in a couple of weeks, tickets?
Yeah, the tickets will be released shortly.
There will be a heat every week in February. There's going to be 70 places up for grabs. So all of you can compete, every one of you. No excuses. And the first one is in the best city in Manchester. Love you all. Thank you for coming.